Hi everybody, Michelle again with the Seems Like Quilting team. I am working on the our shop sample for Tilda Jubilee, which we are making the floating 9 patch from Tipsy Needle right here. Gorgeous, fabulous pattern. And I'm not walking through the pattern step by step in these videos. That's pattern design is a massive amount of work, and the way that we thank people for that work is by buying the patterns. And so it seems like quilting, we're not going to support anybody, we're not going to aid anybody in making this quilt without purchasing the pattern. However, the pattern is one of the reasons it's so great and I love it so much is that it's made out of some really foundational techniques, and one of them is snowballs. Today I want to just talk about the snowballs because I think the act of making snowballs is just a fantastic thing to kind of have in your repertoire. You can do so much with them, and it's a fantastic improv. If you're kind of new to improving, it's a fantastic way to start. So a snowball is a snowball is really just a square that is that the corners are chopped off by other squares. So basically, we're just going to put this facing sides together, sew along the diagonal, trim, and flip. Right? Very simple. And when you do it on all 4 sides, it's called a snowball. Now the proportion, or how the proportion of the squares, right, the background square to the small squares that you put in the corner, is going to determine how the snowball kind of turns out, right? Does it look more round? Does it look more like it's been angled off? And so you want to play with that proportion a little bit. And now normally when you do this, you can see that I've pinned this together, and that then I would then mark this from corner to corner, but let's be real. So this is a shop sample, and you know, the thing is that we really try to get the shop samples out within a couple of weeks of the fabric coming in, and but that means that we have to make a quilt in a couple of weeks. And of course this month we have about 5 different fabric collections coming in, which means we have to very quickly make 5 different projects so that we can get out on the sales floor for you to enjoy, see the fabric, we can put the kits together, all of those kinds of things. So because of that, I've had to come up with some, I would say, maybe shortcut ways of doing this. So this particular pattern, I make, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 snowballs, and, you know, 50 times 4 corners is 200 little corners that I've got to do. And if I stopped and marked them all, I think I would go a little insane. So instead what I've done is I've actually put a piece of painter's tape on my machine. You see that there? And it's lined up with the needle so that when I put my fabric in, or I put my block in to kind of sew that, all I have to do is kind of line up the edge, and I can just like visualize that kind of straight line there, right? And then when I go to sew it, I can actually just wiggle it around until the corner hits the edge of the painter's tape, and then as I'm sewing it stays straight. So as I'm sewing, I can kind of make it stay straight, right? That's really hard to do with one hand. So super simple way to kind of like make those angled straight. Now the other cool thing people do with snowballs that I have done in the past, but I'm not doing with this one, is you put a second seam about a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch away from that first seam. And then when you trim off the edges of those snowballs, you have mini half square triangles. So there's all kinds of cool things you can do. And I would really highly encourage you to think about adding snowballs to kind of your foundational repertoire, right? So the next time you see that cute little mini charm pack, or you win one at retreat or at a guild meeting and you really just don't know what to do with it, you can grab a background color that you like, cut out some squares and put them on the corners and snowball that. The other thing I really love about snowballs is that, especially for Tilda Jubilee, which is why we picked this for this pattern, if you look at the different prints that we have here, which all look great in these smaller size squares, and I'm not going to tell you what size because again, I'm not giving away the pattern, but they look great in all of these smaller size squares, but you'll see that the majority of them are kind of medium prints. There's a couple that I would say maybe could be called small prints. There's a couple that maybe could be considered large prints, but by and large, they're mostly in that kind of medium space. Now, I love that. I don't think that that's a problem, but it does mean that if I'm going to put them all together in a quilt, I want to give them a little bit of breathing room, right? So when I look at this snowball and I can actually see, my eye can see all of the prints in the snowball because it's got some breathing room in between. So it's really kind of cool to be looking at, when you're looking at what pattern goes with what print or anything like that. It's really kind of cool to kind of think about things like that. And we think about that a lot at the shop because we want you to really be successful with the projects that we've put together and the kits we put together. We want you to really like them. The manufacturers do a good job of putting those together. But again, I think it's kind of fun to for us to kind of mix and match those things for you, because otherwise, what are we here for? So that's how to snowball. Again, we're putting together the floating 9 patch from Tipsy Needle out of the Tilda Jubilee, and that will be, I hope, kitted up in the shop in the next couple of weeks. And so you'll be able to buy that both in the shop and online. The yardage is available right now. You can get it whenever you'd like. But the kit will be ready in just a little bit as soon as I get it done. So thank you again. And that's how to snowball.